Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. We got so many amazing comments and Instagram posts and all this sort of stuff about last week's focus episode, and I love that. So please, as you're listening right now, just screenshot this, share it for us on Instagram or Facebook, tag me at Dr. Adi Jaffe, tag at ignited.me. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know that you're paying attention. We love the feedback. And I want to kind of parlay or move forward from that discussion last week about focus in a way that might seem, I don't know if counterintuitive, that's not the right word for this, but might seem like an interesting shift, but really has to do with some of the feedback I've been getting from the people in the Ignited Heroes course in the last couple of days. And I want to share it because I think it's important. So last week we talked about focus and how to lean into the pain and pay attention to what is feeling hard, the things you've been running away from, the things you've been avoiding forever and ever and ever, because that is the way to victory. That is the way to beating your addiction forever. Now, what I want to ask you to start paying attention to, and what I think is important to focus on that a lot of people take focus off of, are actually the victories. It's kind of incredible. So like if, in AA, for instance, they'll celebrate 30 days and 90 days and, et cetera. They have specific markers that you get these little chips for when you hit specific markers of sobriety. If you've listened to any of the stuff that I've said, any of the stuff that I've written, if you've bought the Abstinence Myth book, you'll know that while abstinence can have a place in recovery, I believe it is absolutely not, I repeat, not the end-all, be-all of recovery for sure. And I mean by that, literally, you could have 30 years of sobriety and have a miserable life, and you could have intermittent sobriety and be doing better than somebody with 30 years of sobriety. So I mean it literally to that extent. But what's been coming up for me over the last few weeks, maybe the last month, it's been a really tough month for a lot of the participants on the course. And what's beautiful about the Ignited Heroes program is we have the support community so people can help each other through. And I've watched it and I participate and I help, but I see the people holding each other's hands and guiding each other and supporting each other through the struggles, which is beautiful to watch, and is so important because support in the hard times is crucial. Now, in the last week, literally in the last week, a whole number of the participants have actually been experiencing huge growth and victories and happiness and joy. And it's kind of interesting how this cycle goes, but what I notice almost right away is that people keep those to themselves. And some people literally have told me in private messages, I'm scared that this will go away, so I don't want to share it because I don't want to make it seem to everybody like I'm doing okay. And then 2, 3 days, 2 hours, a week down the line, realize that it was all a lie and I'm back to shit. And I make the point to them that you have to pay attention to and celebrate the victories. You have to. I mean, if you think about it, so much of life has been spent primarily focused on what's not going right. If you go back to my story and the idea that I didn't fit in, I didn't have friends, I didn't know how to talk to girls, and I was socially anxious and I needed more, part of that was me literally focusing on the worst elements of my existence because nobody else really saw that. And so I have to believe that there were whole areas, and I know for a fact, I don't just have to believe it, there were whole areas of my life that were actually going incredibly well, and I just, A, wasn't paying enough attention to them, B, not giving them the weight that they deserved. And so what happened was all the negative stuff got extra weight. And I don't know if this speaks to you, but my guess is that right now, a lot of you are holding your head in your hands, kind of going, oh my God, it's like he's speaking directly to me, because we've all been through this. We've all been through that time where all we're focusing on is the negative. And I've talked about this before a lot, and I talked about it in the focus episode, but if all you do is constantly pay attention when things aren't going right, you're never actually going to know when you're doing better. Because, and follow me on this, it's not like we're really good at telling the difference between a kind of bad day and a really, really bad day, right? It becomes overwhelming. We get into, if you study cognitive behavioral therapeutic kind of approaches, we get into black and white thinking and overgeneralizations and catastrophizing, thinking that we're either a failure or a complete success, thinking that if we did one thing wrong, the world is always going to be wrong, thinking that one small action that didn't go well is going to doom us at work or our relationship or life. So we're not really good at telling the difference between kind of a bad day and a really, really, really bad day. So if we constantly pay attention to what's going wrong, we will have opportunities to prove to ourselves that every single day is terrible. And so when we have victories, we have to celebrate them. And for some of you listening right now, for sure, for a lot of the people I work with, celebrating victories feels weird. It feels weird because you haven't been used to it. Nobody in your life in a long time has allowed you to celebrate it or has celebrated with you. And for a lot of us, we come from a background where we don't have practice in it. Like, I have a really hard time acknowledging big successes, whether it's the book or the course or, the rehab that I opened and co-founded 6-7 years ago. I unfortunately also I'm biased to look towards some of the negative stuff, but I've had to train myself to constantly pay attention to the positive. So we'll have a link to the 5-day journal that I use every day myself, because that allows me every morning to check in around gratitude and what I love about my life. Why do I do that every morning? I do that every morning so that I can reset my brain to start paying attention to some of the things I'm grateful for. What do I want to happen that will go well in my life that day is also important, so I can look forward to things instead of always looking back and judging my actions, or always looking forward and imagining failure. Now, again, if this speaks to you, let me know. Share it with me, because I love hearing your versions of this and it helps me create these topics. But I need you to understand that recovery is going to look like I have a picture of this in the course for a lot of the students, but it's going to look like a very gradual incline with some slow ups and downs, some low ones, some small ones, some huge drops, and some incredible tall peaks. It's not a straight road. And if all you pay attention to is the negatives, the downfalls, the slip-ups, and you don't pay attention to, oh my God, I just drank less in a day than I have in years, that is a victory. So what if it wasn't perfect? And again, if you read the abstinence myth, I don't even know that abstinence is perfect. Or I just had the best conversation with my partner that I've ever had. One of my clients today literally just mentioned relatively small victories to some people. But that's not the point. If going to the grocery store is a victory for you because you went with your partner and you had a good shopping trip and you got a little anxious, but you didn't freak out, which is one of the things that you normally do. You get super anxious, maybe have a panic attack, and you were able to go to the grocery store without having that experience, focus on that for a minute. Do one of these mindfulness exercises that we talk about and close your eyes and focus on your breathing and run through that experience again in your brain. Play out the movie. Pay attention to the positive emotions. In the course, I call this developing a positivity bias. How do you take the moments in your life to pay attention to what's going great? It was a huge leap for me to start Ignited, because while I haven't held like a regular normal job for I don't even know how long, since grad school, I've been in that uber professional sort of world, even starting a rehab, right? And to move to a completely different way of living where I'm running everything and it's all online was really scary. But one of the things that I get to do now is I'm home every morning. I used to leave the house, by 8, and sometimes depending on when we lived in the San Fernando Valley here in LA, I would sometimes get home at 9 or 10 p.m. And today, in the middle of the day, I got to walk around with Noah, our 4-month-old. So I'm making less money, but I'm making more of an impact, I believe. And I got to celebrate a 30-minute walk with my baby today that would absolutely not have been possible if I had another job right now. And so, sure, I could focus on the money. I could focus on the losses, and I've done that before, don't get me wrong. But I do my best, and I'm asking of you to do your best to pay attention to all the amazing things that are going on in your life. That doesn't mean we don't have room to improve, but celebrate your victories. And one of the ways that I really recommend for people to celebrate their victories, by the way, is with the Wheel of Life that I like to use with my clients all the time. I give you a free version of that. If you just go to ignited.com and sign up for the newsletter, and if you sign up for our list, you get a download of my modified 10 slice. The average Wheel of Life has 8 slices. I added a couple because I think purpose and contribution are hugely important, and they weren't included in the typical one. So you get my customized, the Ignited Wheel of Life for free, just as a download, so you can start using it. And don't use it once. Use it once as your starting point. But that's what a lot of people do, right? They use it one time. They start feeling bad about the elements in their life that aren't working well, and then they never measure again. But let's say your physical environment, the place you live right now, scores a 3 out of 10, and that is really bad for you. Let's say that that's where you are right now. What I'm telling you is if you don't measure it again in a month, maybe in a month it's a 3.5, or maybe it's a 4, or maybe it's still at a 3, but if you don't measure again, how do you know if you've gotten better or not? If you don't keep track of how life is going, how do you know that it's improving rather than catching yourself in the same place every day, feeling stuck? So this is a really, really short one. I just wanted to get this across to you all. When I say focus, it's not always about the pain. A lot of times, and again, one of these people today, one of the clients today asked me, will I feel like this again? And it was a gut-wrenching but so purposeful question she asked, because the fear was, maybe this isn't going to last. Maybe I shouldn't be feeling like this because it's not real. And my promise to you is if you do the work, buy the Abstinence Myth book, do the work in the book. It's all outlined there. We're about to do a short workshop for it too, but there's an entire outline of all of that for you. Do the work and measure your progress, and I guarantee life will get better in many, many aspects, some of which you don't expect. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you here next week. Remember, tag us, share, DM me your personal questions. Can't wait to see you again next week. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.